Welcome Sharada and Krishna Kumari and the devotees present here. So welcome Sharada and Krishna Kumari and the devotees present here. Always gotta pause the YouTube. So. Om Jnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Siddhantotpala Sara Nityarasikam Hangsam Vilasatmakam Audaryakya Sudhama Sevaka Dhanam Vishrambha Bhakti Pradam Yacha Yukti Vichakshanam Tvaghavido Vaishishta Shaktya Sada Vandeham Tripurari Namaka Yatim Shri Bhakti Vedantinam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Swami Shri Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupadaya Te Namaha Gurvagyam Shirasi Dritva Shaktya Vesha Swarupine Hare Krishneti mantrena paschatya prachatarine Vishvacharya prabharyaya divya karunya murtaye Shri Bhagavata Madhurya Gita Jnana Pradaine Gaura Shri Rupa Siddhanta Sarasvati Nishevine Radha Krishna Padam Bhoja Vrindaya Gurave Namaha Devam Divyatanum Suchandavadanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Sarasvatanam Varam Vandetam Shubhadam Adeka Sharanam Nyasishwaram Shridharam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaeva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahorito Gaudadaye Pushpavanto Chitro Sangho Tamonado Harer Nama Eva Kevalam Kalam Nasteva Gatiranyata. So welcome also Guru Nishta and Ken. So Haribol. So today is As the Sun Rises and Sets, Gaudiya Vaisnavism Goes West, part 4, which is the final part of the series. So just to recap briefly on what's happened until now is that we have gone through how Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the first place came from the spiritual world into the material world, and then how it became a movement in India. And we also went through Mahaprabhu's reasons for coming to this world, which are his own personal reasons, but he also includes us in his, like he also has something in store for us when he comes. He engages us in what he's trying to realize himself, which is service to, or how to reciprocate with Srimati Radharani. Krishna is trying to reciprocate with Radharani and he needs help, so he involves us also. And then I went through briefly how elements of Krishna consciousness came to the West, but how you say, not on purpose, but more that it happened that way. by outsiders, by Christians bringing the holy name of Jagannath to the West, and also translating the Bhagavatam into French and so on. But then going into devotees purposefully trying to bring Gaudiya Vaishnavism to the West. And in the previous episode, it was all about kind of physically getting all the teachings and like a first installment of teachings to the West. And so in this episode, I wanted to talk about more how Gaudiya Vaishnavism keeps coming to the West, because Gaudiya Vaishnavism is infinite, and it keeps flowing. It's not that it came here at one point and that's it, but new revelations keep coming, and also there's also contributions made by Western practitioners. So you can also say that Gaudiya Vaishnavism comes back to India from the West sometimes. But let's see here. So I wanted to read something from Srila Sridhar Maharaj about this. Like once it's established somewhere, then it's there's this Bhagavad Gita verse that says there can be no loss or diminution. Like bhakti can only grow. So once Gaudiya Vaishnavism has been planted in the Western countries, it's going to keep growing, and there is no there is no return from there, which should be encouraging. This is also this is the case with every devotee also. That's as soon as Krishna consciousness comes into your life, it can only grow. Like Ali said here before, he was trying to say that he's not interested and he doesn't want to be too involved, but then he was somehow drawn in. So this is how Krishna consciousness works. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, and this is when we're already practicing and we are trying. Srila Sridhar Maharaj is giving some comfort that it will eventually bear fruit, all our struggles. We will attempt again and again to make progress towards the truth. And when we are unsuccessful, our heart will ache to think that we are repeatedly being defeated by the enemies who are all around us. But the fire of Krishna consciousness is there, and that fire is not to be quenched. It is a spark of eternal truth. So the fire will continue, and the day will come when the enemies that are surrounding us will have to retire once and for all. One day we will find that Krishna has gradually captured our whole heart, and the others have retired forever. They are no longer present to trouble us in our mental circle. We will find that those unwanted things were like mushrooms. They came out from our mental soil, and now they have all gone and died. They have all gone away, and Krishna alone is in the heart. At that time, the heart is only full of Krishna, full of the Krishna conception. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur once instructed a disciple at the time of initiation into the Hare Krishna mantra that Krishna should be allowed to land in our hearts, just as an army is landed by the navy. An army is carried by a ship, and when they have landed, the fight begins, and they capture the country, just as Julius Caesar said, Veni, vidi, vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. So we have to allow Krishna to land in our hearts, then the fight will begin. So that this is also this analogy can also be used for like putting Krishna consciousness in the West. Like once it's landed, the fight begins, and now we're not talking about conquering, conquering by the sword, but conquering by explaining the philosophy, and not so much about. Of course, this is all about preaching and converting, but it's more. I'm more talking about once it has taken root somewhere, there is still the kind of this struggle of anartha nivritti that I brought up in the first episode. That you have to go through. You have to kind of revise your everything in your mind, and kind of turn every stone, make every atom of yourself Krishna conscious. What is the proposal of Krishna consciousness, and what is the proposal of so many other conceptions? They're all giving us their assurance from time immemorial, saying, I shall give you this, I shall give you that. But the Krishna conception will enter and say, my claim is this. Krishna is saying, the whole thing is mine, and you are all trespassers. The fight will begin, the unwanted things are sure to withdraw, and Krishna consciousness will capture the whole heart. This is the process. Krishna consciousness has only to land within our hearts. Somehow or other, from a pure devotee, a bit of real Krishna consciousness should enter through our ears into our hearts, and Krishna will supply whatever is required. And here comes a very important sentence that one can carry with oneself throughout one's whole life. One who has imbibed even a slight regard for Krishna consciousness is assured of success in spiritual life today or tomorrow. So anyone can think like if you just kind of like Krishna consciousness a little bit, that's all. Like if you have ever just had that sense, then you can be assured of success. You cannot know when, but it will happen. We may have erected high walls on all sides to protect ourselves so that Krishna consciousness may not enter. But Krishna is a thief, and a thief requires no invitation. No preparation is necessary for his welcome. He will enter for his own interest, and that is our consolation. Our solace is that Krishna is a thief. Maya has erected her high walls on all sides, but nothing is sufficient to stop Krishna consciousness. Krishna is a thief, stealthily he will enter one day. So the army has landed, and it's only a question of time, but there is a lot of like kind of minutious things we will have to go through in the course of our sadhana over decades. And I was thinking about what I mentioned in the first episode about like how you first get to the basic teachings, and then you kind of fine-tuning. And this fine-tuning process is what can take many years. And there are many points that, for example, how to think about the guru. What is the guru? Who can be a guru? There is this. Like I remember when I was first joining, I was taught that all gurus are nitya siddhas. So it means that they have come from the spiritual world down to planet Earth to bring us there. And many devotees are learning it in this way. But then, as in many cases it has happened that, for example, the guru shows that he's not qualified, and then it becomes, of course, a crisis of faith for the disciple. Not only in that particular person, but in in understanding the philosophy, like what is a guru, and because if you have been taught that that the guru is coming from the spiritual world, then if your guru stops being a guru, you must logically draw the conclusion that he was never a guru, because since he's obviously not from the spiritual world, if he stops practicing bhakti or has moral issues and so on. So how to think about this, and also here comes up another important point that my Guru Maharaj brings up, that actually this has kind of created something unique, at least in my understanding, and anyone can correct me if they know otherwise, but it seems like that in some places in the West, like a bigger, I say, a more wide, how to explain this, like more like lineages converging in one place, and it is kind of like a blessing that has come from people who were previously gurus and then falling down, and then Westerners seeking other, like looking at other lineages to find a qualified guru. So you can have like this leads to more like mixed sanghas. You can have like Nityananda Parivar, Advaita Parivar, and Gadadhar Parivar, all kind of in the same, or like hearing from gurus from all of those parivars, but belonging to, for example, Bhaktivinoda Parivar. I'm not sure how much that happens in India. Maybe Brigu would know.
Not so much.
So people are mostly in their own Gaudiya world, so to say. But here in the West, at least in some places, like it has kind of opened up more. There's more of a forum where teachings from different Gaudiya Vaishnava lineages are being considered, and especially my Guru Maharaj, who he dedicated his book Sacred Preface to practitioners of all the Gaudiya Vaishnava lineages. So not only from his own, like from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's lineage, but from, like I said, Nityananda, Narottam Das Thakur, Syamananda Parivar. So many. I think there are usually 10 are listed. So thinking about the guru issue, there are one friend asked me if there is like one correct way that one should think about the guru, like should you think about the guru as a nitya siddha or as a sadhana siddha, or I guess even sadhaka, and I've heard some ways my Guru Maharaj has reasoned about this, that, for example, if your guru was had attained perfection before you met him, so you met him and he was perfect, then it's very easy to think that he was always perfect, because it's sometimes like that in human psychology, that the way someone is when you first meet them, that's kind of the image of them that stays with you. So as far as you know, that they were always perfect. And of course, this is in the ideal cases when the guru is perfect, which that's the best. It's best if the guru is perfect. But of course, also advanced sadhakas can help others by acting as guru. And there's also other ways. Of course, there's the verse in Gurvashtakam that Guru is not different from Krishna, and of course, Krishna is Nitya Siddha. So the Guru principle is Nitya Siddha. Like I remember meeting a devotee in Vrindavan, and I asked him how he felt about his former Guru who had fallen down. And he said that, well, actually, Guru Tattva cannot fall down. so he was, at least externally, he was fine with it. And then there are other ways, like, for example, we have in Jaiva Dharma, there is the example of, this is something in between, like the Shakshat Haritvena of the Gurvashtakam and our practical reality here on earth with real physical people, is that the Guru is also representing a certain eternal associate of Krishna. So in Jaiva Dharma, we have that two disciples of the same Guru see the Guru as either Subal or Lalita Sakhi. So that's also one who are also Nitya Siddha. But one problem with, I mean, of course, the good thing with thinking of the Guru as Anitya Siddha is that you have very much respect. I think it's maybe good for beginners to think that their Guru has come down from the spiritual world, and it will definitely, you know, it doesn't have the it keeps away some dangers of, you know, of seeing seeing the Guru as an ordinary person. Like, even if the Guru is a sadhaka and has traits of an ordinary person, it's very, very extraordinary to have someone who is connecting you with Krishna, someone who is dear to Krishna and can kind of like if you pray, maybe Krishna can't hear it, but if you ask your Guru can ask Krishna if he's close to Krishna. So there was one lecture where someone asked Guru Maharaj that how is it that like even if some people are initiated by gurus who later on turned out to not be very trustworthy, how is it possible that these disciples are still making progress? Because some apparent like visibly and clearly are making progress in spiritual life. And Guru Maharaj, he gave a very interesting answer. He was saying that when you get initiated, that even if the Guru is not very highly elevated, he's opening the doors to the academy of Krishna consciousness for you. And once you're in the academy, you can also hear from others, and also in the form of books, like reading books and so on. And also the mantra like our main Diksha mantras, the Krishna mantras, they have power in themselves. And although I've heard Guru Maharaj give different views on this, because one time someone asked him a similar question, saying that they had received a mantra from someone who had fallen down. So so he asked Guru Maharaj, like, was that still Krishna giving me that mantra through that person? So it's I still have the connection even if this guru is now gone. And Guru Maharaj said, like, why would Krishna give himself through an unqualified person? Like he just asked it as if it was like a silly question, but in this answer that I was beginning to talk about here, he actually says that the mantra has power in itself, and you have, you know, if you're in a Gaudiya Vaishnava community and you have like followed the like Krishna's desired, at least Krishna's desired system of giving himself in the form of the mantra, then you may still connect with Krishna through the mantra. And then the third reason I said how someone can still make progress is that that this person, and also my Guru Maharaj kind of knew the person she was talking, this devotee was talking about, and he said that someone can have a very like intense period of spiritual practice. This person who was the guru of this of the disciples in question. So someone can have a long, intense period of spiritual practice, and then and also like initiate others, but then maybe like their spiritual practice is declining for some reason. But that power of the previous spiritual practice that was genuine can still be tapped into by the disciples. So that is so those are the three kind of reasons he gave for how someone can make progress even if their guru is not in good standing. But of course, like ultimately it is necessary and just simply desirable to have an actual qualified spiritual master who will kind of not let you get away with misunderstandings and so on. And there's this very important section of the introduction to Tattva Sandarbha by Srila Satyanarayana Das Babaji that I want to read just to show, because we have this encouraging side that like as soon as Krishna consciousness has entered in any form, it will eventually conquer. But we also have to kind of become proactive and participate in this process. That is also part of the like. It's not that we can just sit back and we will be conquered. It's we need to take part. And here, Babaji Maharaj is kind of giving some weight to what it means to actually convert to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's not it's not about just like saying that you believe in something. And he would explain this very, very sharply here. Let's see here. So Shabda, which means spiritual sound, that is the sound of the Shastra. He explains here, implies an innate potency of primordial consciousness itself, the supreme conscious foundation and source. It not only signifies reality in the manner of conceptual or logical formulation, but is identical with that reality. It is thus one specific reality potency through which consciousness discloses itself. So Shabda points to an epistemological mode of knowing that transcends perception and inference. So it's Shabda as a way of knowing transcends knowing things directly through your senses, and also how you can logically think about things. This mode of knowing does not so much involve an effort or intent to know any sort of object, internal or external, on the part of a subject. Rather, it is an inturning of consciousness toward its own source, prior to any conditional subject-object divide. So by its own self-revelatory power, Shabda, which effectuates the turning of consciousness, becomes identical with such turning. It may thus be understood as knowledge through conscious identity and not conceptual knowledge about. The existence of such a direct mode of knowing has been the common experience reported by realized mystics of all traditions throughout recorded history. This adds weight to the argument that this mode of knowing cannot be reduced merely to the subjective experience of a limited knower. Rather, it has been recognized by those who have known it as primordial subjectivity itself, prior to identification or involvement with any conditional knower and known. So it means that if you could hear directly, for example, the Bhagavatam, without the filters, or if the filters are all aligned, then simply hearing the Bhagavatam is going to turn your consciousness towards Krishna. It must be noted, however, that for this higher epistemological capacity to be activated, one must rise above belief and disbelief. So that is what I meant by it. It's not enough to believe in Bhakti or believe in Krishna. In the true sense of the term, belief can have application only when reality is not directly known through identity in pure consciousness. Only when the believing subject is the phenomenal self, identified with perceptions, cognitions, affects, and conation. A note, conation refers to that aspect of the mental processes having to do with volition, striving, and willing. In that sense, it involves the potencies of both willing, Ichcha Shakti, and acting, Kriya Shakti. It is a term used widely in psychology and represents a basic mental faculty along with cognition and affection. For the conventional practitioner or worshipper, however dedicated, devotion is enacted still from the separate self-sense, pritak bhav, of a conditional subject trying to know some ultimate object through willful efforts of the mind and body. For such a person, Shabda, spiritual sound, even though believed in as a divine revelation, is reduced to the level of knowledge about reality. It can just as easily be disbelieved because it is unknowable and hence unprovable through logic and perception. It must be known directly in consciousness, which is to say that by the turning of consciousness upon its source, Shabda is enabled to self-manifest the reality with which it is identical. What is suggested here for epistemological consideration is merely the allowance for the possibility of such a transphenomenal mode of knowing, for its actual existence can be known for certain only by one in whom it is awakened. The elaboration of the entire process is intended precisely to actualize this possibility. Therefore, Shabda as Praman implies far more than mere belief in scriptural authority. It refers rather to the direct experience of a person transcending the conventional limits and defects of the human perceptual instruments. Thus, Shabda entails a superior grade of direct perception conveyed in linguistic form for the cognition of one who is eligible and available to such an experience. The significance of Shabda, divine sound, as evidence, implying the activation of the transmental mode of knowing, will be brought out later both in the case of Sri Shukadev and Srila Vyasadeva, the speaker and author of Srimad Bhagavatam, respectively. Both of them effected this turning of consciousness upon its source, and hence to both of them reality is self-manifested through the self-revealing power of Shabda. If the significance of this is rightly understood, then the reader is invited to rise beyond belief and disbelief and the source of both, which is egoic identification. We are invited to know reality immediately, apprehending it in perfect identity with the mode of knowing of the Bhagavatam's original speaker and author. When received in this way, Shabda becomes not epistemological reduction, but epistemological transmutation and expansion. So, to put it maybe more simply, hearing the Bhagavatam wouldn't be information, but it would be transformation. So for kind of understanding Krishna on that level, you really need someone who is directly kind of electrified by Krishna. And then I wanted to kind of end with something more reassuring. Which is by Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Maharaj. Let's see. Because he gives a concern, because how will we know who is a real Vaishnava guru? Like we don't have those instruments really, and there is this verse that says it is impossible even for the demigods to properly identify a Vaishnav. This may lead me to wonder how I, a helpless and feeble being who is ignorant and foolish, can ever hope to recognize a Vaishnav. How will I be able to understand his Vaishnava-ness? As long as I remain ignorant of Sambandha Tattva, the principle of one's relationship with Sri Krishna, and continue to lack faith in the mercy of the Vaishnavas, I will be subject to various types of misgivings and be deprived of this mercy. Then he says, one Vaishnav has given a very beautiful and remarkably logical answer to this question. It is indeed true, he said, that the demigods themselves are unable to recognize a Vaishnav, but why should this be cause for concern? The emperor may be unable to recognize my mother, but that will hardly prevent me from being able to recognize her, even if I were but a tiny baby. When I was an infant, I did not understand what relationship my mother had with me, nor was I able to realize her deep love and affection for me. Although I was ignorant, it does not follow that my mother was not my mother at that time, or that I was deprived of her affection. I always remained related to her and did not forego her maternal affection, despite being unable to understand who she is. Nourished by her love, I have now attained adulthood and am able to appreciate how she is related to me and what maternal affection is. During infancy, I did not understand my mother. Therefore, I could not realize the sweetness of her affection, although she showered me with it. But I have now grown into an adult through her love and nurturing. By her affection and mercy, I am now able to realize who she is and have now developed a feeling of possessiveness towards her. So, Srila Keshav Maharaj ki jai. Oh, and I just realized now that I forgot to say what's the kind of negative side of seeing your guru as a nitya siddha, or that all gurus have to be nitya siddha. It's it kind of gives the message that all like real Vaishnavas are nitya siddha, and that means there are no examples of any sadhakas, because if all the Vaishnavas we glorify as big acharyas, if none of them made it by practice, then there wouldn't be any examples for us to follow. Maybe that could be answered by that they could come to this world and pretend to be sadhakas and kind of go through all the struggles. But, it's not very how you say, inspiring, or that if I'm supposed to kind of make it on this path, I have to be perfect from the beginning already. So yes, Gaudiya Vaishnavism goes on in all directions. Does anyone have any comments or questions, either here or online? Sharada says, yes, I heard that in India there are people from Gotras, from different sages and saints who come together as a sangha or sometimes a small community. I'm not including those who intermarry, but those who come together as God brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for that comment, Sharada. That was to the question whether it happens in other places than in the West, that many parivars come together in one place.
Haribol, Syamananda.
Haribol.
Hi, thank you for the wonderful class. I have one comment and one question, and the comment is, it really struck me, just a small thing, when you read that quote from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, how he was saying that there are enemies all around, and then in different places, in other places he says, you know, the environment is friendly. And I think that what that brought to my mind is that some devotees kind of want to jump to the final state of mind without doing the work of saying the environment is friendly, although they're nowhere near that stage to actually see the environment like that. So I think it's good to remember that both sides are there, that it's good to be a little, you know, paranoid sometimes about bad influences and whatnot. But it's also good to remember what the goal is, that actually it is all friendly, but we just can't see it. That was one thing. But then my question is, so you've gone through explaining how Gaudiya Vaishnavism came to the West and everything, but what's your opinion or vision about where's it going to go from here? I've asked this question to Guru Maharaj once, and I won't say anything what he said because I don't want to influence your answer, but like, I'm especially interested in this, like, social aspects of it, like, for example, or the cultural, I should say, like the deity worship, or the way we dress, or the way we cook, and all these things, with the kind of music we make as kirtan stuff. So what's your vision about the, let's say, like 500 years forward?
Whoa, 500 years. That's incredible. But it's a little difficult because, like, we don't even know how the kirtan sounded 500 years ago, unless there is that style of, there are some styles of kirtan that are said to be by Narottam Srinivas that are still around somewhere, right? 500 years, and in the West also. because there is this kind of tug of war between the kind of keeping it traditional, that everything should be like Indian, for lack of a better word, or Vedic, whatever like Vedic means in anyone's mind. Like there should be the clay drums, and then there are those who say that, well, Krishna consciousness transcends all that, so anything goes, and that also becomes kind of a tricky discussion when you go into descriptions of Krishna Lila, because, for example, in some sections, devotees are saying that no, like we shouldn't have to think of Krishna being a cowherd boy in some Indian village. That's simply because he appeared there at that time, like in that way. Of course, if he descends into a cowherd village, then he's gonna, when you're in Rome, then you do as Romans. So we can actually meditate on Krishna in whatever way we find the most inspiring, and then you hear stories of people meditating on Krishna as going snowboarding with you in the Alps. So because some like really mean that there is no such thing as, for example, Vaishnav clothes, or those who argue against that, they mean that's just like a temporary thing in India, and Guru Maharaj like responds that then one is basically saying that Krishna doesn't really have a form or like eternal pastime. Like he's just this kind of ethereal thing that you can mold into like whatever form you want him to be. And that is true for very high devotees, that if they are touched by the Svarup Shakti, then like their bhakti forms Krishna, like but then you are like under the Svarup Shakti, so it's not like your mental concoctions of how you want Krishna to be like, but it's and of course I'm not on personally on the level where I could tell what is like right and wrong in this sense, but what makes sense to me, at least, is that you follow Krishna like the way. I mean, if you're attracted to Krishna as Krishna, he appeared a certain way, and those who formulated Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they spoke of Krishna in a certain way. So even if that was thousands of years later, they weren't, they didn't like change Krishna Lila into something else of their time, but they respected Krishna for the way he appeared. Then I guess one could argue that there have been haven't there been some changes, like how Krishna is like depicted like according to like later in Indian styles rather than earlier, so that makes it more complicated to defend the but of course, like aside from style of clothing and things like that, it is kind of if you want to practice Krishna consciousness the way that, for example, Srila Rupa Goswami is presenting it, then it's about all the bhavas and mixing of the bhava. I mean, on a higher state, on a higher level. And I guess if someone could think of Krishna snowboarding in a way that still works with all of Rupa Goswami's presentation, then I guess they can do that. But to me, it doesn't make sense to kind of subordinate Krishna to our likings. But 500 years of these kinds of debates in the West, and I also I mean, like 500 years, like I'm really thinking, like in 50 years, I'm wondering how the world is going to look with the global warming and all that. Like I don't think humanity will go extinct or anything, but I think I'm kind of on, just personally, I kind of believe that society is going to look more simple in the future. It's not going to be so complex as it is now. It's going to be more like there is this archaeologist Joseph Tainter who thinks that like in the case of a kind of total global societal collapse, maybe in 50 years or so, then maybe 90% of the population will become farmers, and then it's going to look more like how we hear Krishna Lila in the Bhagavatam, and maybe not so much of all these fancy like Krishna techno and Krishna reggae or this or that, but maybe just more down to earth kirtans around the fire in the evening, and so on. Is it related to?
I just want to know what reverse.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think that that maybe if it's not going to be totally Indian looking in 500 years, it's going to be more this kind of similar village setting, which will be more kind of conducive to practicing Krishna consciousness the way Srila Rupa Goswami is explaining it. So now Sakirati wants to hear Guru Maharaj's version. And we all do, but Sakirati specifically raised her hand and asked me to stop speaking.
No.
I actually can't remember exactly what he said. But I do remember it was during a Swami call, maybe like 1.5 years ago or something, or 2 years ago. So, I mean, I could go back and try to find it, but it's kind of like a needle in a haystack situation because I can't remember when it was.
Okay.
But the kind of part of why I asked this question is that, first of all, it seems like we have this tendency to think that we've arrived now, right? Because we are, it's so, people tend to be self-centric. So we think self-centered. So we think that like we have arrived. It's not going to change from here. But then what I was thinking about was what happened to Christianity, after, the succession. Like John, Jesus' brother, was like the kind of like the Jewish version of Jesus, in a way of they really wanted to keep the Jewish tradition and keep Christianity as like a Jewish sect. And then Paul totally took it, because he was a Gentile, as far as I remember. He took it to the Gentiles and completely kind of like universalized the teaching. And so but Krishna consciousness is a little different, because we have a lot more of these like core cultural aspects that can't really be messed with in the same way, because we have so much detail about the aprakar, like the final destination, the lila. And so I'm wondering if it's possible that there's going to be like the Krishna West and the Krishna East, kind of, that the more traditional, you know what I'm saying? Like the more traditional people are just going to stay very paka, and then there's going to be this universalized version of Krishna consciousness that probably won't really be Gaudiya Vaishnavism anymore. Just a thought. But anyway, thanks for the answer.
Very well. But saying that, then you're kind of saying that, for example, universalized Christianity isn't Christianity, but like that's not nowadays how it kind of feels. Like, I mean, I'm sure the Christians really identify with, I mean, even the universalist Christians really identify with Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, but for them, like, they don't really, you know, think that they have to dress like Jesus was dressing or anything like that to enter Jesus' Leela.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Basically, like, Christianity is a new thing. It was Judaism, but then it became Christianity. But like John wanted to keep it as Judaism basically. So in that way, it did become its own thing. Anyway, just a thought.
Thank you. Okay. So I think we can conclude here. And yeah, like Guru Nishta implied, we haven't arrived. I mean, the boat has landed, but the army has landed, and but Gaudiya Vaishnavism will continue to evolve for centuries. So thank you all for coming, and also all of you here.
Hari Hari.
Hari Hari.